Jordan Love got hurt in the final seconds of the Eagles game, and now the Packers must move forward without him. Join us as we recap that Eagles game, discuss life without Jordan Love for a little while, and preview the Colts game.
I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm Kesha.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Sounds Gouda. My name's Jordan Olson. My co-host is Rob Ralph. We are excited to have you here, as always, talking Packers football. Thanks to any new listeners, and always thanks to the people that hang out with us regularly and make this a part of your weekly routine. So just a reminder that we have new episodes every Thursday on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. You can also interact with us on X. You can see our handles down below. We'll give you a little reminder about that at the end too. So obviously, coming off a very tough loss, not only would we normally be very disappointed in the performance that we put together on the field and the fact that we traveled down to Brazil and we lost a close game against a formidable NFC team, but we did lose Jordan Love in the final seconds of that game, and for what seemed like an eternity, we didn't know how long that was going to be. Good news is, since then, we found out that the expected recovery timeline is somewhere between 3 and 6 weeks. And there are some reports even that it may be on the short side of that, hoping that it's, somewhere between that grade 1 and grade 2 MCL sprain. They're not really putting out there where we're at with that. So, yeah, Rob, now that we have that news, how are you feeling about where the Packers stand right now? And, what are we going to do without Jordan Love for a little while?
Yeah. He didn't tear his ACL. So, you know what? Glass half full on that. I am going to the game this weekend, and no, I'm not just signed because of that. But also, yes, because of that, because I wanted to see my first home opener at Lambeau. And B, I haven't seen Jordan Love play yet. So I'm not going to lie. I was circling that the whole year, or at least until I got these tickets, and was really, 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 really excited to see that. So
my dad, my brother, my mom, my sister-in-law, they're going as well this weekend, and I've had a number of conversations with them, and they're feeling the exact same way. I'm hoping that the energy in Lambeau isn't completely zapped as a result of, people kind of losing the anticipation of this exciting opening game.
Yeah, we need that's exactly it right there. We need to bring all the energy we can. Home field advantage, specifically at Lambeau, is a big thing if you can get the crowd rolling. Malik Willis, I was just listening to Matt LaFleur today too, and he says Malik Willis is catching on. I think one of the reporters asked, so how much can you expect of him know 100% of the playbook? I'm like, he kind of like looks at him and he goes, I don't know about that. He'll know 100% of the game plan, So, well, we traded him. We just got him. I think Matt LaFleur is a good coach. He's going to put him in spots to be able to succeed. We were just talking about this before we hopped on, but I think you're going to see a lot more RPO, maybe a lot more 12 personnel, Jordan, like you were saying, right? Maybe to protect him a little bit better, but also to maybe 11 personnel, spread them out, see what the kids got a little bit. I think there is going to be some more quarterback design runs. I would say that that's probably more his strength. I won't call him Lamar Jackson or Anthony Richardson quite yet, but I've seen that pop quite a bit on film, and specifically from college. So I expect a lot of that. And the other thing I expect a lot of, or at least I hope we get a lot of, is running the ball pretty consistently. And we'll get into this too as far as Packers Colts preview, but and good defense. So yeah, as far as that goes, Jordan, it hurts to have your QB1 go down. This was basically our worst case. Well, not quite the worst case scenario, but it still sucks for him to be out 3 to 4 games. And we're going to need to be able to tread water, so at least win one game, if not two, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of a number of years ago when we opened in Minnesota, and Aaron Rodgers goes down, has the collarbone injury. It could be a very similar timeline for return. I mean, it's projected to be a little shorter than that. But it felt like a big blow at that point in time. And if this thing goes 4 weeks or 5 weeks, I think the best thing that we can hope for is that we find a way to win 2 games, and maybe be 2-4. Maybe be 2-4 on the season at that point in time, going into, I think it would be the Texans game in week 7, if that's the case. And then you got to hope that you can find a way to get 10 wins. And then, 10 wins will get you into the playoffs in the 7-team format per conference. So the season is not lost, unless, of course, Jordan Love spends 7-8 weeks on the injured list, or, they're not putting him on there yet. But if he misses 7 or 8 weeks, it could be tough. But we'll hope that Matt LaFleur can draw up a good game plan for Malik Willis. I think this will be very telling about what Matt LaFleur is as a coach. The last time that he had to do this, he didn't quite pass that test with flying colors, right? He admitted that he should have created a special game plan for Jordan Love when Aaron Rodgers was hurt and Jordan Love had to play against Kansas City, really, and hurt his first start in the NFL. I really hope, as new as Malik Willis is, that Matt LaFleur puts together a game plan that they're comfortable with, that Malik Willis is comfortable with, and that can utilize his talents and the rest of the many offensive talents we have on the roster. So very telling about what Matt LaFleur can do with without option number 1. I think it'll be very interesting. So
this isn't the first time either. I remember I think he brought it up today too, but when he was the Titans offensive coordinator, they had Marcus Mariota go down in the first game or after the first game, and then they had Blaine Gabbert for, I don't know, more than a few different games, and that didn't go too well either, right? I mean, you're talking different quarterbacks, Mariota and Blaine Gabbert, but still same sort of concepts. So we'll see. I believe in LaFleur, and I think if we run the ball down the Colts' throat, similar to what the Texans did, and hopefully play really good, competent defense and not let Richardson rush all over us. Like I said, we'll get into this. I think we'll stick in it.
Other than that, we don't know a lot right now, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on Jordan Love. There was a lot of conversation about Ryan Tannehill and the Packers being in contact with him, and then, of course, there's conflicting reports that nobody was in contact with Ryan Tannehill or the Packers didn't directly reach out. So I think that, and I was talking to my family about this, if they're really expecting this to be more the 3-week time frame, I don't see the Packers making a move for a veteran. If they evaluate after this week and this upcoming game against the Colts is a complete train wreck, I don't know, maybe we will call Ryan Tannehill if this is going to be a 5 or 6 week thing at that point in time. But initial reports that we're hoping it's on the short side. And I think they hope to survive with Willis during that time. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna put a bow on a few things from the Eagles game, and then we're gonna move on. We're gonna wash that from our short-term memory for the best that we can. Hopefully the Packers will not forget about everything that happened in that game, because I think that they're gonna need to understand that they need to be a lot more prepared going into the rest of the season. Need to be a lot more disciplined. Commit less penalties. I think they committed 10 penalties in the last game, which is, I think, second most in Matt LaFleur's era of coaching. I think there was a game last season where the Packers committed 10 when they were trying to figure things out with their young offense. But my just initial thought there is that Matt LaFleur is 3-3 in opening games. And outside of the Bears game, none of those games have been a dominating performance by the Packers. They often come out looking sloppy, rusty, and outmatched by the other team. So I know that his strategy is really to keep people healthy. But, this was a big game against an NFC opponent that is going to be, there might be a tiebreaker down the road at some point in time. So we will see. So I'm going to challenge Matt LaFleur to be better in the future on opening weeks.
There's a lot of things to clean up as far as the Packers and Eagles go. I think another podcaster was saying there was something like 39 different types of mistakes. So, I mean, yeah, it was not only that, but the first game too, you're always kind of a little bit rusty, and then you're flying all the way to Brazil, for an international game, for the first game of the season, in a brand new place, brand new commute, brand new way to practice, all that sort of stuff. And granted too, there was a lot ofglimpses of some really, really good stuff on the offense. And if there wasn't a 12-man on the field on the Packers side, which he a little bit talked about that in his press conference today, subbing out at the wrong time. Like a play here and there, or you score in the red zone another time or two. We're coming out of that with a victory. So there are a lot of things to clean up and that too. And we did touch about it. And we do have a live show that you guys can view on our YouTube page as well. Our initial gut reactions, if you want to dive into it a little bit more. But as always, throughout the season, you hope that you can continue to get better. And just this part is a little bit odd because it won't be Jordan Love. It's going to be Malik Willis. So we'll see how that goes.
For sure. Just a couple notes looking at some PFF grades. Not surprising that, Zach Tom, Jaden Reed, Elton Jenkins, Manuel Wilson, and Jordan Morgan were our top 5 graded offensive players. Really like to see that Jordan Morgan graded out pretty well. Obviously, Sean Ryan started the game. And Jordan Morgan rotated in. I think that Jordan Morgan ended up playing, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I'm trying to remember from my memory. I think he played in about 60% of his snaps, and in those 60% of his snaps, averaged, scored a 67.7 in PFF's grade. So a little better than average. And with kind of how things played out, I guess that's a grade that I expected, but a good taste for him in his first game. Top 5 defense, Edgerrin Cooper has very limited snaps. I think he played 11 total snaps. We talked about it in our live reaction. Probably need more Edgerrin Cooper moving forward. I expect them to work him in as he gets more comfortable. He just didn't get a lot of chance in the preseason to get comfortable because he was hurt. Xavier McKinney had a great game. Eric Stokes, Keyshawn Nixon, and Lucas Van Ness rounded out the top 5. I'm a little surprised to see LVN in the top 5 list because while he played a decent amount of snaps, didn't really seem like he made a noticeable impact on the game. But I think he was probably doing a lot of things in contain and did some right things that he probably scored out pretty well for. So what are your thoughts on those performances, Rob? Anybody else you want to talk about? I mean, besides, the likes of Jaden Reed, who was a standout.
Yeah. It was disappointing to some of that stuff. Wicks with the drop. I think some of those passes were a little bit behind. He's gonna have better days. He's a special receiver, so he's gonna be okay. I am surprised on that Lucas Van Ness. I haven't seen that one yet, but sometimes I'm questioning. I can't be the only person on some of those PFF grades, but I would have to see some of the reasoning behind that of why they did that. Thought that especially the first half, the offensive line was really struggling. And I know the Eagles have a pretty good defensive line: Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. So I give them a little bit of credit. They're making some plays, but they were really struggling with running the football. And then in the second half, they seemed to obviously catch in a groove, and you can see that from Josh Jacobs' carries from the first half to the second half. 8.6 yards a carry or whatever it was in the second half. In the first half, it was absolutely abysmal. So that was good. And I do think that Morgan, he got better the more snaps he got. There was definitely a couple plays here and there where I don't know if it might have been Jalen Carr, but he swim moved him and he got right to Jordan Love maybe in 2 seconds or something. It's like that's classic type of rookie mistake. And I think somebody else put it on there in X2, but I think where we struggled at quite a bit too, center and right guard. And then Rasheed Walker also, had some struggles here and there too. So lot to learn from in this game, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so speaking of struggles, I'll just give you the bottom 5 on offense and defense. So Luke Musgrave, number 1 worst score. Dontavian Wicks, Josh Myers, Tucker Kraft, and Christian Watson. So a little surprised to see Tucker Kraft and Christian Watson on that list. Now, Christian Watson is 5th on bottom 5 offensive performances with a 59.6 grade, which is actually a fairly average grade. So for the most part, how I would interpret that is that PFF gave the Packers offensive players fairly good marks overall. Bottom 5 defense, and I am surprised by the Tucker Kraft grade as well. He played in 95% of the snaps. I thought he was clearly the better of the 2 tight ends on the day. I don't know if he had a couple things that he missed some blocking assignments on. Or, maybe they thought he had the potential to be open on a few more of his routes. But, I don't know, kind of surprised by the Tucker Kraft grade. Bottom 5 on defense, Isaiah McDuffie, Kenny Clark, Kingsley Enagbare, Carl Brooks, and TJ Slayton. So a tough day at the office for our defensive line, according to PFF.
Yeah.
And then I'll just say Jordan Love graded out at a 64.6, which again is about an average, little maybe below average score for the day. 260 some yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. About what you'd expect Jordan Love to grade out from a PFF perspective on the day.
Yeah, Jordan Love. He played decently. There's a lot of throws that I think he'd want to have back, for sure. But first game of the season, international, like I said, he was slipping everywhere on that field too. Which people are like, well, that's what they have at Lambeau. I'm like, I've never seen him slip that bad at Lambeau ever, unless it's like wintertime, So
Yeah.
I'm kind of throwing that one out and kind of a little bit of BS on that one. The field was really bad, and people have taken videos of it too. But yeah, I just expected a little bit better. But first game of the season, and now he's out. So realistically, probably won't see him for another few weeks, and they'll have to rev up from there. So
Yeah. And we won't litigate the field stuff. I mean, we did talk about it in the live game, but or the live post-game reaction. Interesting, it is the same surface that they have at Lambeau Field and Lincoln Financial Field, but clearly something was in the elements that changed those field conditions, and there's talk out there that the players could award different cleats. We'll never know, but whatever happened certainly impacted playmakers on both sides of the ball. So
yeah, for sure.
One other thing I find interesting, and I just want to get your take on it, Rob, because we've talked about most of the other stuff, is that no Evan Williams in this game, as lights out as he was in the preseason, and he didn't even have a single recorded snap on defense in this game. So little surprised by that. McKinney and Bullard had good and great games. But surprised they didn't give Williams a little taste. Do you have any feelings or thoughts about that?
Good point. We probably talk about 100 different things. That's like one of the things that just I spaced out. Not gonna lie. Yeah, he didn't come on the field once, right? I am after this preseason and the preseason games and stuff and the playmaking ability and different things. I'm surprised he like an Edrin Cooper, right? Like. Yeah, he's not going to do 80, 90%, but you're still going to give him 9, 10, 11 snaps, So, yeah, that is surprising me.
That's kind of what I expected between the Bullard and Williams split, that if Bullard were to go out and, get 80% of the snaps, I still thought they would find a place to get Evan Williams on the field, even in some dime or nickel looks. Very surprised. So, not really sure how to interpret that. Other than maybe they just really think that McKinney and Bullard are the dudes and they want to keep them on the field as much as possible. But we'll see. We'll see this week in against the Colts. Maybe there's something else at play that we'll never know. But just something to note moving forward. So speaking of moving forward, we're moving past week 1. We're moving past the Eagles game, and maybe we'll see them down the road. But we do have an AFC non-conference opponent coming up in week 2 here. As Rob said, normally we'd be ecstatic that we're opening at Lambeau, and it's kind of a fun, intriguing game of young teams with young quarterbacks, and now we just got 2 different young quarterbacks that are going to be going head-to-head against each other. But let's talk about the Colts. What do you think? What do you think about this game, Rob? And what are some things that we should be looking out for from the Colts?
Well, if you're into fantasy like me and Jordan both are, obviously you just saw the Colts get absolutely killed on the ground game from Joe Mixon for the tune of 159 yards and a tutty. I should know because I had him on my fantasy team and I was very ecstatic about it. Now, I think DeForest Buckner in the middle of that line, which he is a massive human being. That's an understatement. He went down with an injury, so how much that really affected it, I'm not sure. Obviously, it did a little bit. But the Houston Texans made a point of running the football, and they did it. They rushed 40 times. Even with all the weapons they have, and Diggs and Nico Collins and Tank Dell and Brevin Jordan and Dalton Schultz, they still made a point of emphasis to do that. So I think one big part, obviously, for us and for the Packers, and you know that the Indianapolis Colts all throughout this practice week are putting a ton of emphasis on the run game, right? It's always how it works, right? And then the team that does that, put a little bit more emphasis, you end up playing just a little bit better, right? Not to say it's otherworldly different, but Packers are going to need to run the ball a lot. 40 times? Yeah, probably. 35, 40 times? Absolutely, right? I think they want to establish that. They have a bell cow and Josh Jacobs. You have another really good running back in Emmanuel Wilson, who obviously played really good too. More along the edges with the Eagles. So I think that's going to be a point of emphasis. I think just like the Eagles game, obviously you're going to need to have to contain Anthony Richardson. I thought one of the bright spots on our defense, and I know Jordan agrees, is that we, for the most part, I think there was a couple ones there towards the end of like the fourth quarter. So I'll just say 3.5 quarters. We held Jalen Hurts in check, right? And that helped out quite a bit too as well. I would say for the most part, the Texans did a pretty good job of that. I think he had 6 rush attempts for 56 yards. He did score a touchdown. I think that was on a 4th down. But it wasn't like Hurts went off on us a couple years ago where it was like 100 and something yards and the dude was just absolutely killing us. So I think that is going to be another massive point on emphasis. But watch out for the deep ball. Anthony Richardson loves himself like a 70-yard deep ball, probably 5, 6, 7 times a game. And it looks like since Josh Downs is out, Alec Pierce is that kind of deep ball guy. With Michael Pittman Jr. and Adonai Mitchell kind of running your other type of intermediate type of routes and whatnot too. So those are the 3 stud wide receivers. I know Jordan would agree with me on this too as well, but I'm not quite as afraid of their weapons, quote unquote, as I am with the Eagles. Just overall as an offense, they don't have quite as good of an offensive line. They still have a really good running back, pretty dynamic quarterback, but very inconsistent as a passer. They have some really good weapons at wide receiver. I don't mind Michael Pittman Jr., and I think Alec Pierce is finally starting to show up this year. And Adonai Mitchell looked like he was pretty good coming out of Texas, but I'm not quite as scared of that. So it's all going to come down to the game plan. How much are you going to run the ball? How much are you going to pass? What situations is Malik Willis going to be comfortable in? Him knowing the playbook of where he is right now, and how well he kind of does off script. I think there's going to be a lot of broken down plays, a lot of off script stuff. can he pull out some Lamar Jackson-esque type of stuff and get us a first down here and there? I don't know. I think that type of stuff will be evident to us trying to pull out a victory.
Yeah, I look at the Colts, and their off season I think was a little telling for me. They didn't make a lot of splashy moves. I think they're betting on the development of their guys, and they've got some young guys that they're, I think, hoping will pay dividends. You mentioned Alex Pierce. I think they really liked him. They reinvested in Michael Pittman Jr. with a 3-year extension. And then they just barely got a taste of Anthony Richardson. And then, so who knows what they're going to get. Obviously, early indications are there's a lot of talent there. But they didn't bring a lot of outside free agents in. They re-signed Julian Blackmon, which I really like. He was their leading tackler for them last week against the Texans. I actually really thought that he would be a great complement to Xavier McKinney as a box safety before we went into the draft, and wasn't really sure that we were going to double or triple dip. So yeah, Julian Blackmon's a really good player on the back end of that defense, and he can hit and deliver some smack. So you mentioned they have a few key injuries. DeForest Buckner may miss this game. I think he's probably going to be doubtful, questionable going into it. He injured his back against the Texans. No downs. I think they have a kicker hurt right now, but outside of that, they're pretty healthy. But with Buckner being hurt, and them being pretty thin on pass rush, I expect the Packers to try to take advantage in the run game, much like the Texans did. I'm not going to go too deep into it because I know Rob already highlighted that pretty well, but I do think, especially without Buckner anchoring that middle, there might be opportunities for us to take advantage both up the middle, and then without really too many formidable pass rushers, there might be opportunities on the outside for us too. And who knows, like maybe we'll get Marshawn Lloyd back and healthy enough to play a few snaps this week. I'd expect us to see a few more direct snaps or some looks with Jaden Reed or Christian Watson in the sweep game to take advantage of their speed going to the outside. So I think the Packers will definitely look to take advantage on the edge as well. One other thing I really wanted to point out is that I really think that, as we mentioned earlier, Matt LaFleur will have to come up with the right game plan for Malik Willis. I'm not sure, like, maybe you see them bring up somebody like an Andrew Beck and have a true fullback on the roster this week to have some extra protection, to absorb some of those blocks. Maybe if you really want to be a ground and pound team this week, Matt LaFleur will utilize some of the other personnel to take advantage of that. So we're going to have to, the defense is going to have to be better than it was last week. Field conditions on a 1 o'clock sunny, I guess I don't know that it's going to be sunny, but it's not going to be a nighttime game where it's going to be dewy and damp, and the field conditions, they should be dry at Lambeau. So no field excuses this week playing on your home turf.
In front of a ruckus crowd, including myself. So I'm pretty stoked, even though I don't get to see J Love. We're going to need to bring a lot of energy to that game. So with that being said, you ready to give the final picks for the game?
Yeah, I think my one other matchup I wanted to highlight is more of a group, our group versus their group. And you talked about Pittman, Pierce, and Mitchell. And while they're a formidable group, I'll be very curious to see how our secondary, Jair, Stokes, Nixon, lines up against this group. And, I kind of don't know what they're going to do. Like, Pittman's obviously a bigger body. I could see them maybe, and more of a straight line guy. So Eric Stokes might be the perfect guy to match up with Pittman and kind of have him move around. Who knows? I mean, he is their number one threat for all intents and purposes. So maybe Jair will be on him too. But I kind of expect Jair to be on some of those more athletic downfield players. And let Stokes and some of those guys go against Pittman. So just a matchup to watch. Predictions. I'm not going to probably do this too often, but who knows, maybe over the next few weeks that we will have to. The Packers right now are 3.5-point dogs to the Colts. So I do predict the Packers to try to find a way to make this close. For us as fans to see some things that can give us some hope for the few weeks to follow when we play the likes of the Tennessee Titans and the Minnesota Vikings. But I predict a close loss, Colts beating the Packers 17-16, us moving the ball a little bit, getting in position enough to get a couple field goals, maybe a touchdown on the day. But very much a game where we're trying to figure some things out with a new QB under center. So,
and I just talked a lot about what we need to do to win. Again, I agree with Jordan on his points too as well, but going to be realistic in this. And maybe I'll get proved wrong, which would be phenomenal. But I'm going to go ahead and give the Colts a win here, 24-20.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, the Packers could certainly flip it around in a close game and have, be on the outcome of, a 17-14 victory. But the defense is going to have to show us a lot more to make that happen. So,
absolutely.
Just a couple other things looking around the league. We don't have a lot of time for reactions left on this show, but, the Bears win with defense, and Caleb Williams is not overly impressive in his debut. And,
dude,
the Lions, it pains me to say this, the Lions, they looked like a bully last night. The guys were mean-mugging. They had intensity. And, we were worried about they were worried about, the NFL was worried about what offensive weapons they were going to have. And if Jamison Williams can now be that guy to pair with Laporta and St. Brown, the Lions are going to be a favorite in the NFC.
Yeah, they look good. I'm mad that I didn't grab Jameson Williams towards the back half of my draft, because I do think he's going to end up being, pretty good this year. But I wanted to go back to the Titans-Bears because I picked the Titans to win. If Will Levis just doesn't make one of the most stupid, boneheaded plays where he's getting sacked, and as he's going down, he lobs the ball to the defense to where the quarterback said, "Oh, thank you. I'm going to grab this and take this for a pick six." I was like, did he actually just try and give the Bears corner, the defense, the ball to score a pick six? That's got to be one of the worst plays I think I've ever seen from anybody. So,
yeah, indeed.
Congrats to you Bears, right? You guys won. I'll bet that offense, whoo, buddy. I don't know. But the Titans gifted you that. So a little bit of, just know that we are always going to have more Packers content. Sounds Gouda every Thursday. Jordan and I were talking. We might have a little bit of a different sort of take for you guys too, as far as having an ending cap for the game and then a preview of the next game. So we might coming up here might have some sort of different schedule as far as that goes. So just a heads up, that might look like a Wednesday type, Wednesday or Friday type of thing. But we'd make sure to let you all know on our social media channels, X at Robber79 or Jordan at Olson Jord 2, if that's the case, and how that's all going to look. Just want to say thank you to all our subscribers. We really appreciate it. For you guys to come back and listen to us. We don't take that for granted at all. Just know that we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube too, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Interested to see how Rodgers does tonight versus the 49ers. Really hoping the Jets can beat them. Absolutely hate the 49ers. So I'm really glad football's back. I know Jordan is too, and just ready for a really good season. So until next time, Packers fans, we hope you have a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good night. Thanks. Take care. Go Pack, go.
Been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving